listener production.
Hey, it's Antoinette Lattouf with the Weekend Briefing. It's where we hit pause on the headlines and I get to zoom in on someone pretty fascinating who is making waves. So we all know that the housing crisis hits young Australians super hard. And a few years ago, one clever video managed to cut through all of the policy jargon, all of the digits, all of the data and the spreadsheets. It compared house prices in 1983 to 2023 and it went properly viral. It racked up more than 20 million views.
Let's go back in time to buy a house. In 1983, I'm an average person looking to buy an average house. I got this average degree, which I got for free, and work an average job. After paying tax and rent, if I save 50% of the remainder, it'll take me 2 years to save up for the 20% deposit. Remember that as we head back to 2023 and I'm still an average person looking to buy an average house, got this average degree, and I have an average job. After paying tax, rent, and HECS, if I save 50% of the remainder, it'll take me 10.5 years to save up for the 20% deposit.
So the guy behind that video is Jack Toohey. He grew up quite comfortable and privileged, went to a private school, he ran his own company, but then he walked away from that business and he threw himself into advocacy. He wanted to advocate on some of the biggest issues of our time: climate change, housing, gender equality. So in this chat, we cover a lot. His new book, which is about having hope, about all of those issues above I mentioned, climate change, housing, etc. Also how life changed after that viral moment. Jack also shares why he thinks the whole creator economy online is just a hoax propping up tech bros. And I ask, well, the obvious question: what gives a self-described jack-of-all-trades, master of none, the right, or maybe it's the responsibility, to speak on all of these issues? Later in the show, it is the Weekend List, where Helen Smith and I give you the latest on what we're watching and eating and doing and seeing and enjoying and listening to, and why you should too. But first, here's my chat with Jack Toohey. Jack Toohey, welcome to the Weekend Briefing.
Thanks for having me.
We have so much to cover in this chat. You've just released a new book. Congratulations on your book, baby. We'll unpack that later. But first, I want to talk about that particular video, which really put you on the map.
Mm-hmm.
It was about housing and how wildly expensive it is to buy a house now. Those listening probably know about it, but talk me through your thought process when you were like, you know what? I'm going to kind of cut through the housing inequality issue with this piece of content.
Yeah, I think at the time I'd been engaged in a few Twitter wars about housing and had started just to like really crunch the numbers that ended up in the video and trying to like put these very simple things that I could see really clearly in the growth of the housing market comparative to wages and the vastly different housing systems that baby boomers existed in and invested in to today. And I just had all these kind of like disparate tweets probably from these battles happening back in the, probably not the good old days of Twitter. It was probably like, but it was pre-Elon, I guess, or it was maybe the start of Elon.
Right. But Twitter had taken a toxic turn.
Yes. Yeah, it was, I've quit Twitter because it's just a hellscape. But at that time, I think it was on the downward trend. But I just had these numbers sitting in my like Notion on my computer, and I'm like, I could see how this could turn into a video, and I could feel like it was. I had a sense that it was going to be a good video because it really made it very simple.
So you looked at 1983 compared to 2023. What made you choose those particular years?
I think that I chose 1983 because it was a little bit before some of the more structural things of like the 90s when capital gains came in. It's enough like kind of lead time to show. Before
John Howard came in.
Before John Howard, but as neoliberalism was starting to take hold and also like when there was still some kind of like of the good old days where like degrees were free and they were benefiting from good social policy in the 80s that started to change toward the late 80s and into the 90s. So that's why I kind of went there. I also just had a cool shirt and jacket to wear from the 80s, so it just made sense. So I got a friend to like who had like a little dad cam and we filmed it, and I just woke up the next day and it was completely crazy viral. It was at 1 million views at that point. I'm like, wow, this is the wow, well, this is
That
nuts.
is huge.
And then it got up to 15 million or something on Instagram and 5 or 6, 7 million on TikTok. So yeah, my life kind of changed overnight as a result. But I think really what it did, it was it confirmed something that was hard to articulate for a lot of people, that they're getting into conversations or arguments with their parents or parents' generation or older generations and just not being able to meet anywhere similar and feeling like, I think because so much of the Australian story is tied in housing, you kind of go, you do all the right things, you finish school, you go to university, and then you meet someone and you adopt a dog and then you buy a house and you have kids. And that's like the Australian story you see on Neighbours and Home and Away, that we've all been like grown up. Yeah. Like believing that that's the correct way to live life.
I love that in your book, and we are going to get to it more later, you talk about the fact that our two most iconic shows is Neighbours and Home and Away, which are very much settled in particular streets and particular houses. And so one had the beach and one was in suburbia, but it was about real estate, essentially, real estate and relationships.
Yeah, but it was just like quite simple, like simple lives, and that was the Australian culture. It was like living in a cul-de-sac or living by the beach, and they're really hard things to do now, and that then makes people feel like they're failures. Yeah, that we can't afford a house must mean that we've done something catastrophically wrong. If Toady Rebecca can afford a house, you know, he's just a good old larrikin. Like, what's he doing? Yeah, and so the common comment in the comment section was this, wow, I feel like I've got a way of understanding that I'm not actually a failure, which was like quite a profound thing to be exposed to beyond the just broader economics of it. Like, I think that's a really unseen part of our cultural conversation around housing, is just the fact that it is intensely personal.
And you'd been working in marketing before then, so you weren't, I guess, a newbie entirely to making content. No. What had you studied, and where did you think your career and life was going before this?
Well, so I didn't take the traditional path as much as I'm saying you're meant to go to university. I never went to university, which I'm sure will annoy people that I've written this book about so many big issues that I don't have any formal kind of training. But I guess I went to the School of Hard Knocks. No, I just
But you didn't go to the School of Hard Knocks. You grew up in a privileged family.
No, exactly. I was really lucky. Grew up in the leafy North Shore. Went to a private school. I think through the private school was a school in the city. I was exposed to homelessness. There was an Aboriginal campus on site, and I was kind of introduced at a younger age when I could have been insulated into my privilege. I think I was given opportunities to look outward.
Yeah, you could have gone into banking or something.
Yeah, well, that's a classic path, right? Yeah. But I never really loved like the academic side of school. Yeah. I loved going on camps or being in the musical or playing rugby on the weekends. I just loved being out and about and doing things. And I guess that's how I've kind of always learned as well, just by doing.
One of the things that comes with instant fame and going viral is instant critique and scrutiny. And you also mentioned that in the book. Yeah. Before you knew it, there were all these Daily Mail hit pieces. Why? What were they about? If you can remember.
Well, it's a classic thing. Like the hit pieces were about the fact that I came from a privileged family, that my dad worked for Macquarie Bank for a few years. And yeah, like I went to a private school. My parents are relatively well off. They like made it out like he's this big millionaire because he owns a house in Sydney. Yeah. Everyone that owns a house in Sydney these days is now a millionaire effectively. Yeah. I guess it just devalues, I think, when you're talking about economics, like economic disparity and inequality, then a lot of people rush to this thing to like discredit anyone that has any kind of privilege to then be involved in the conversation about inequality when I believe that people with more privilege have more responsibility to involve themselves in conversations about inequality and reforming that.
Yeah, I agree. Like if you acknowledging your privilege, what I often say is privilege is not a dirty word. You don't choose what family you're born into or your gender or your sexuality or the colour of your skin. It's what you do with that. Yeah. I guess people want, I don't know if you owe it to them necessarily, but they want like transparency. Yeah. They want to know who you are and what you have before, they accept what you may be saying. How did you reckon with some of that criticism? Because it's not easy.
No,
it's not easy.
It's really hard. I think in some ways, I was really lucky that prior to this happening, I had my like low point and my mental health crisis, and I had rebuilt my life and my sense of myself, and I had gone through like a long period of like quite intense therapy that taught me coping mechanisms in times of crisis, and so I had those skills. I think that had this happened to me prior to that kind of turning point in my life, I probably would have struggled with it a lot, but I think I just always come back to this thing that I'm not always necessarily going to get things right or 100% correct, but my goal is to make Australian culture, society fairer and more equitable for people, and that is what kind of wakes me up in the morning. And so I'm just reminding myself that I'm trying to do the right thing and I'm trying to make housing affordable. I'm trying to recreate systems to actually serve people rather than like profit or whatever. And so that I come back to, as much as there's always going to be naysayers that I'm trying to bring along with me, and I'm not going to get everyone on side.
Yeah, and you're not always going to get everything right. I guess it's something about being in the public eye. And I'd put myself in that, our ability to learn and listen and self-reflect. But to your original video and the original argument that you were making about wealth disparity or the difficulty with housing, irrespective of your background. Like, for example, I do come from a very working class refugee background. And even my parents, who had no education, my parents were educated until the age of 10 when they were pulled out of school, lived through war and trauma and dispossession, even they could afford a house in Sydney.
Yeah.
You know, like the fact that like zero skills, no language, a heap of trauma, and then you have people who have degrees and have done all the right things and still can't. So, I guess when I was reading about that in your book, I thought, yes, you can have come from privilege in 1983 or not and still bought a house in Sydney.
My dad grew up in the Central Coast. I'm not from a lineage of privileged people. Like he lived on a farm when he was growing up, and then he went to Sydney Uni and he became an accountant. And then that's how he was able to get into the housing market before CGT came along and the discount came along and supercharged everything. Yeah. And that was like a lot of part of the Australian story, is that you can come and you can buy your house and you can get
exactly. No matter who you are or where you come from, you can work hard and get property. You know, we saw recently so many people taking to the streets under the guise of we care about housing, we care about immigration. How much empathy do you have for people who have those concerns, given there is a housing crisis, but there is also this kind of xenophobia that conceals policy failures?
Yeah, I think it's important to always maintain a level of empathy for people that have genuine concerns that may be pushed down the wrong path by like nefarious actors. Yeah. And I think that as much as I tried to warn people, and many people tried to warn people that there were going to be Nazis at these protests and they were very much involved in organising these protests, somehow people could still plead ignorance that they went to this thing, because they do have this, as I'm saying, they're also feeling like a failure because they can't get into housing. And then it's really easy. Like autocrats are really good at like making something really simple and pointing a finger and here's the problem. Yeah. Here's the problem and the solution over there, rather than being like, actually it's way messier and more complicated, or it's not actually, it's really simple, but then that means that we actually have to point our fingers at those people, who are
benefiting. Who are benefiting and who are the architects of this hysteria.
Yeah. So it's always easier to punch down. And so we're all taught to do that. Like in different ways in society, we're always taught to look for like easy solutions, or to just like to not think that we're part of the solution or the problem as well. And I think when you are invested in the housing market is set up in such a way that anyone new to the housing market is now the first line of defense over all these people that have been invested for years and like have lots of properties. It's young people that are now in the housing market that now are the most at risk from the housing system changing by being in negative equity. If like housing market starts to reverse and values go down. So that's how the housing system works, and that's a way more complicated economic and social problem to solve. How do we get through that? How do we make housing more affordable for everyone without completely screwing over the livelihoods of people and their wealth, because that's how we've been taught to accumulate wealth. So it's easier than go, well, it's people that are new to the country that are the problem, because we're full. But that's just like the tale as old as time, and it has never led us anywhere positive.
I know, but it seems to keep working. That's the frustrating thing, right?
Yeah. Again, because it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy. The thing that I'm trying to say as much as possible in this book is like, it takes hard work. The solutions take hard work, and it takes us all having sustained effort to change things for the better. I think we all have this idea that there's going to be this hero that comes down, or maybe actually it's a big thing in religions that there's a hero that comes down and solves all our problems. And I think there's also this cultural idea that like a new president or prime minister or a new politician, an independent politician is going to come and like shake everything up and solve all our problems. It's like, no, like they're just like one piece in a really massive puzzle, and we're also pieces in that puzzle. And if we don't put ourselves on the table, to extend the metaphor, like if we're on the ground or still in the box of the puzzle, we're never going to complete that puzzle.
You mentioned, religious figures or somebody coming and fixing this or being the way forward. I mean, that comes down to faith and belief. And I wonder if what you're suggesting is another iteration of this, because one of the main, I guess, thesis or the underlying theme in your book is that we have to have hope. I mean, it's because better things are possible.
Yeah.
I could, rewrite this book and go, look, things are fucked, but here's how we could try and make it a bit better.
Yeah.
You do believe in hope.
I do believe in hope. I think that hope is an action. That's what I kind of write in the book, and that's true. Like hope is something that we do, whereas optimism is something that we like kind of broadly feel. We're just like blindly thinking that everything's going to work out. Like better things are possible if we do X, Y, Z, and we actually work to make better things possible. They're not possible if we don't. And so I think hope is an action that we need to believe that things like better things are possible, and then that's the first step. The second step is work towards that.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you on that, because sometimes I wrangle with whether we are in a post-hope era where we have to accept the inevitability and disasters of climate change. We have to accept that a lot of the neoliberal policies that have widened inequality are very entrenched and difficult to reverse. So instead of hope, we accept that things are terrible and we just try and make it as bearable as possible. Am I sounding very bleak right now?
Yeah. Well, something I learned in my therapy was a thing called radical acceptance. And that's radically accepting, like, when your life is shit and everything feels like the world's against you, you just accept that you're feeling bad and there's all these pressures on you, and you now go, you can step above that. And then you can say, what can I actually change in my life? What can I do to make my life better?
I feel like that's the same sort of thing. We're just packaging it differently. You have to accept the crap state of affairs and not think that you're going to repair it into a shiny new state. You're just chipping away to make it a little bit better.
Yeah, but if everyone does that,
right, okay,
then that becomes like this massive force for change.
Okay.
And so I think that a lot of people, and that's like comes back to like basic things of like integrity. Like we're meant to like, we supposedly hold integrity up in society, but it doesn't actually seem like we do, because like some really bad people have very high positions of power.
A lot
with
of
no
bad
integrity.
people, yeah.
Yeah. But if you succumb to that idea that like there's no point in me doing something good and positive or trying to make things better because the next person next to me isn't going to. Well, then if everyone thinks like that, then no one is going to do anything positive, and then there's nothing positive in the world. We can't sit in that. We have to believe that better things are possible. We have to do something about it, and maybe you encourage the next person to also believe that and start doing things. And then it's that groundswell effect. It's just this idea that like we can't do anything, and then everyone thinks we can't do anything, and then nothing happens. And then we go, well, this has confirmed our theory that we can't do anything. Well, I would rather actually try to do something and be proven wrong in that action rather than just being like, nah.
Well, you've tackled a lot of issues. You suggest better things are possible in climate change and the housing crisis, freedom of press, gender inequity. They're just some of them. These are all enormous challenges. Yeah. How did you go about not only writing the book, but feeling that you were in a position to offer? And you alluded to that earlier. You'd be like, well, some people would say, oh, I didn't go to university. Not that I in any way suggest that you have to go to university to write a book. Yeah. But how did you decide or, grapple with that process of tackling some of the biggest issues of our time and offering hope? Yeah.
I think there's probably two things wrapped up in that question. One was like the actual process, which I found quite isolating and lonely to write a book and think about how things are fucked and how we need to, I don't know, am I allowed to swear?
You are allowed to swear.
How things are fucked and...
Yeah, because the closer you look, the more you feel.
Yeah, exactly.
This. Yeah.
But in that same process, I did find a lot of hope and people. But why I feel like I'm in the position to do this is because my skills are in storytelling and communication. That's what I've always done. And I can't expect, or we can't expect, although there are some very impressive atmospheric scientists that can communicate, most scientists shouldn't be the ones that are in charge of communicating that to as many people as possible. Same thing with economists. Like, we can't expect these people to also be fantastic orators or writers. They need to be focusing on their work. And so I can, through speaking to them, hopefully translate what they're saying into a way that's more consumable to more people. And so I guess that's where I got over my imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Is by being like, well, what is my skill here? Why am I writing this book more than someone else? It's just because that's what feel like I'm here to do, is to be a conduit potentially to explain these concepts. And that's why my video went so viral in the first place, is that I made it simple for people to understand.
You mentioned how isolating it is to write a book. I'm just about to finish writing my second book. It's tough. I know, because obviously I am in media. I have a lot of friends who've either written books or have book deals. A lot of people don't realise how hard it is to keep writing. And I have friends who have book deals from 3 years ago and they haven't written a word. What was the process like for you?
A lot of imposter syndrome. I really questioned why I was doing this, or who would read this, and what right I had to put these words or try and figure out solutions to all these problems, as you kind of alluded to before. I think that I sat on it for a long time. I didn't write a whole lot. And because the problems are so big and nebulous and confusing and intricate, and then B, just like thinking like, I left every HSC exam early because I just wasn't interested in doing it. Right? I hated like this idea of like that kind of version of learn by rote and like, and just regurgitate your essay to fit the question.
Yes.
Instead, I kind of like wanted to ask lots of questions and then like kind of bring it. So through the process, I started doing interviews, but I did find it really lonely. I'd come from owning a business with like 12 staff that I chose. There were people that had to hang out with me every day. And
you paid them to hang out with you.
Exactly. and be creative and like collaborate and make things together.
Yeah.
To then doing something completely by myself was just not how I'm wired.
Yeah.
So what I realized is I bought myself a new laptop that was bright enough to sit outside. I'd go to the Botanic Gardens. I'd sit in the grass. I'd get to watch the world go by as I tapped away. And then when my laptop ran out of battery, I'd go to the art gallery and like sit in the members lounge with like the nice old ladies that come in at lunchtime or whatever. And just be a part of the hustle and bustle of like living in a city and having that human interaction with the nice ladies at the desk, or like someone that asked me for a bottle opener in Botanic Gardens one time, and just like had an interaction with this person. I'm like, oh, that's who I'm writing this book for.
Yeah.
And so like when I was just trying to sit at home, not seeing any of the world I was trying to save, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It felt so much further and distant. So that's how that was my cheat code, I guess.
What did you enjoy most about writing? Did it actually give you hope? Did it make you believe more that better things are possible?
There was lots of periods where I was angry and frustrated at like these dead ends that we get to in terms of policy, like, and the way our political system works. But there's also, I do see like a lot of hope. I think we have a really great democratic system that when more people understand it can be utilized to affect sweeping change. I'm not seeing that right now, but I think that there's still, hope for that in the future. And by talking to experts and everyday people in Sydney, but around the country, like I did a road trip and met people all throughout the country. Like this book, I'm sorry, Tasmania, but this book has been written on
the mainland.
All the mainland states and territories. But I'll get to Tassie I'll get down there at some stage. And so I did meet a lot of just random people that didn't agree with me, farmers that have been working the land for generations. But then I would talk to them about regenerative agriculture and think about a new way of treating the soil and talk to them about that. They're like, oh, there is something, we have this, like, they do care about the land, and here's this way that we can make the land healthier. And like you can get into these conversations with people that would disagree with you on 100 different things. You go, that's an inner city latte sipping lefty, greeny soy boy. But you can get past that conversation if you just get past that first wall of defense, which is just us all put into categories.
You went viral on a video about housing, which essentially made you a household name, but now you don't make very much content. Why is that? Yeah,
I mean, the whole creator economy is just broken. You can't really make a lot of money from making progressive content. The system is designed so that means that we can't make content. Like they don't want us to make money from their thing. Like trying to sell a book on Instagram is impossible because as soon as you put a link or something in, like they'll be like, no, like I'll go from having 15,000 views on a story to 500.
And like shadow banning, I mean, it's hard to prove, but I feel it when I do particular topics or whatever. Like I feel that the algorithm punishes, you know, and sometimes I'm like, is this in my head or? No,
I think it's definitely real. I'd notice it on certain topics. I don't notice it so much now on content about Gaza because maybe the broader conversation has shifted for the algorithms like, well, I can't shadow ban everything about Gaza now because then they would have no content because a lot of people are creating content about it now comparative to like the early days after October 7th. So like,
but if you try and sell something, if you try and sell a book or whatever, you've tried to boost something, it doesn't seem to favour that or to display it.
Because their whole system is built by you want to sell a product, you give us money and we'll help you sell it. So if you're trying to sell a product based on your own following that you've cultivated on their platform, they're like, well, no. We need to be involved. We need a slice of that pie. If I have money to give them, then they'll make my book posts go a lot better. You know?
But even there are a lot of like social media experts who say even paid boosted stuff isn't getting the returns that it used to, and sometimes it actually works against you. So it's just a strange world to try and operate within and understand because I feel the goalposts just keep moving.
Yeah, and I think as passive consumers of content, we're not really understanding what's behind the algorithms and what's behind the economics of the algorithms. And so that when we see a creator then suddenly try and sell something or try and make a little bit of money from using their following, we go, oh, that's lame.
Well, this exchange is probably going to get shadow banned.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to see it.
Yeah. And so I think there's two things happening. There's the algorithm, which is doing a lot of like social control, but there's also ourselves doing social control where it's tall poppy syndrome in Australia where like if a creator does want to do something cool outside of the bounds of like what their normal content is like, people are like, no, why would you do that unless they have this really big critical mass of like fandom. And so then it's like, yeah, you did it. Like Mr. Beast releasing his chocolate bars or whatever, like his fans are like, cool, you released a chocolate bar, like that's cool, but there's like a massive gap between getting to that stage and like here. And I don't think that Google like the fact that Mr. Beast is so rich and is so powerful because he can now has a say over how YouTube runs. He can say to them, this change to the algorithm or the recommendation is bad. I'm going to tell all my followers about it. And now however many millions of people that he has that are on his side will be angry at Google or Meta. So that's why I feel that Meta doesn't want to have that same problem. On YouTube, you can make money from it, like the ad revenue. There's a better split than on Meta. I think people just think that you make money because you get views. And
people are like, wow, 1 million views, 100,000 views.
That must mean you have $1 million.
What about TikTok?
Same problem.
Yeah.
I think that they do have a creator fund in America. I don't know that's here. Again, I've never made any money from any of my views. I've never been paid a cent from any view that I've ever gotten on any app.
That's wild.
Except for the only thing, like unless I've done like a brand deal and I made a video about like recycling mobile phones or a custom-owned bank, I can make money through that, through the process of like... But not by the number of views that you've had. Not a cent, no. So at one point after, I guess, the glory and the reach and a bit of ego, because it's like, wow, a lot of people are listening to me talk, you know, and I've been there too. It's like, wow, that's traveling. You're like, I just spent all that time creating all that. Like this is my energy, it's my creative capital, it's my intellectual capital for nothing. For nothing, yeah, and I can't... Other than like a public service announcement, which is lovely, but that doesn't pay the bills. Exactly, and so it's not sustainable at all. Yeah. And we've all just been, and this is a really big problem I see for journalism, is that like we've all been trained not to want to pay for any kind of journalism. And like I know that we're in this early stages of like reframing that and you're doing that now, but we still have to like, there's just a change in everyone's brains that we need to be like, actually, we used to pay $2, like a gold coin to get the newspaper, and we were happy to do that. And there were ads in there, and we understood that economy worked that way. Or we watched the news and we had to watch 7 ads between the headlines, and we just accepted that. And the ads are like so ingrained in our culture. Like there are so many things that we just say in our vernacular today, which are from ads. Yeah, absolutely. Which is not, I can't see that really happening today based on like a skippable YouTube ad or like a thing that you swipe past when you're doing your brain right. What do you hope readers take from your book? Is it to reach the people that were watching your videos with more than a 90-second explanation? Like what do you want them to take from Better Things Are Possible? Well, yeah, I mean, you can't possibly explain all of the things that have caused the housing crisis in a 90-second video or the things that go into like us not being able to make meaningful steps towards mitigating climate change. So a book is a really good place. Another answer to your previous question is that like I would come up with something that I need to put in my book and I'm like, well, I can't make content for this because I need to put it in the book. So I'd rather really tease things out. And I know that not everyone is going to be a book reader, and I understand that probably
there's the
some
audio
people,
book. The people like listen to books, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that like obviously the patience, like our attention span has gone really short. So in some ways like writing a book is kind of madness in like how short our attention span is. But I also wanted to have something that exists outside the algorithms and away from Mark Zuckerberg. Unfortunately in the throes of Jeff Bezos, but yeah, so I think,
like choose your evil.
But I think that what I want people to take from the book is that A, better things are possible. B, that takes us all working towards it. And we just need to get back to community conversations, connection, having real conversations with each other about the situations that we're in and working together to fix them, rather than expecting someone else to come along and fix it, as we talked about before, or believing that there is no hope. Because if we just say that there is no hope, then the planet will continue to be exploited and extracted and plundered, and inequality will continue to grow. And the concentration of power will continue. And so that's not fun for anyone. It's not fun for us unless you're the one at the top. And even then, I was like, I don't understand like all these billionaires making their bunkers and stuff in New Zealand. And what do they think is going to happen if everything collapses? Like the security guards are going to care about Mark Zuckerberg and his compound and continue to protect him. Like they're the ones with the muscle. So I don't know. I don't really understand. Like we have this like romantic notion almost of like dystopia. Like it's like when you're about to stack it on the skateboard or your bike, you get the death wobbles and there's a moment of like almost clarity where you're like, well, I'm going to stack it and I'm going to get a massive graze on my... And you just accept it. And there's a moment for a second and then the pain happens and you're like, I wish that I hadn't stacked my bike. But there was just this moment, I think we're in that moment right now where we're just kind of like, oh, the free fall is kind of nice. Like we just put our hands off the steering wheel and just come what may.
But your skull's going to crush in a moment unless you break your fall.
So I would rather try and like get myself out of the death bobbles and get society out of the death bobbles than stack it.
Yeah.
Well, that's an analogy, isn't it?
I hope you were wearing a helmet. It's the best we can do. All right. Thank you so much for your time. This was a really fascinating chat.
Thanks for having me.
That's Jack Toohey, and his book, Better Things Are Possible, are available at all good bookstores and probably some average ones. Available everywhere. It is that time of the week. It's the weekend list. It's where Helen Smith joins me. She always shares a bunch of ideas on what to see, watch and do. She listens to my ideas, usually with some judgment and a lot of feedback and a lot of I told you so. Helen, what have you got this week?
My first recommendation is a movie that I found on Netflix. It was in one of those top 10 lists, but it's actually from 2023. It's called Uproar, and it stars one of my favourite young actors. His name is Julian Dennison. He's a New Zealand actor, and you might know him from Deadpool 2. He's kind of done a few Superman or
superhero or whatever.
I don't know what you call them, superhero movies. But this one is kind of a coming-of-age film, and it's set in New Zealand, 1981. And it's set in this time when the arrival of the South African rugby team sets off nationwide protest against apartheid and racism.
Oh, okay.
So it's quite an interesting time for New Zealand, and it was actually filmed in New Zealand as well. But it's a coming-of-age film where this young New Zealand boy is in this private school that he finds himself in, surrounded by white kids, like white boys. It's an all-boys school, and you know, it's very funny, but it's also very sad. Like Julian is a very funny actor, like such a good comic.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
the issues that it's covering.
The issues it's covering, and also it's just that teenage angst, like growing up, going through puberty, not fitting in, like all of those things it covers, but then it covers really like I think relevant kind of things that we're all dealing with now about protesting and thinking, what does it do? Should I protest if it's going to kick me out of my school or have?
How do we feel about apartheid today?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just so
really.
Like even though it's from 2023, I think and it's set in 1981.
Yeah.
All of the themes are still just so current, I think, for right now. But it was such a good movie. It's on Netflix. It's called Uproar. A lot of Australian and New Zealand creators and actors in the film and behind it. So that's a great one. I think that I loved it. So definitely give it a watch.
Uproar, okay. You know what? Those Netflix top 10 are so handy because
there
is so much to flick through.
So much.
Obviously, that's probably made it in the top 10, even though it is not a new one, because of the times, because of what we're witnessing, because of the boycott and divestment movement with Israel and what's happening in Gaza, which is a fabulous segue to my recommendation. It is a book by Omar Akkad. It is called One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This. And so I'm reading this book, obviously, because I, care deeply about the catastrophe. God, even catastrophe sounds like a stupid word. The genocide in Gaza. We don't have to we don't have to sugarcoat it. But Omar Akkad is a Canadian, Egyptian, Palestinian journalist who's won a bunch of awards, but he's actually coming to Australia, and I'm interviewing him. So I had to read his book, to be fair. But I often have to read books in preparation for interviews that I don't necessarily like, but I have to read them for preparation. This is incredible. It's a short volume of essays that blends memoir, political critique and reportage. So Omar was raised in Egypt and Qatar, but now lives in Canada. And I guess it reckons with the disillusionment between his heritage and then growing up, obviously, in the West, but in particular what he sees as the moral failures in response to journalism and how it covers Gaza since 2023. And, I mean, he's such a beautiful writer, but he interrogates language, silence, delayed outrage, reportage that minimises or, glosses over Palestinian life as less worthy. And he challenges readers to confront hypocrisy and also what the cost of so-called being neutral and so-called being balanced when it comes to journalism.
Yeah.
Now, we're just going to be neutral. We're going to say a little bit on this side and I'm going to say a little bit on this side. And just like, well, there's no neutrality when the facts are overwhelmingly damning. Should you be neutral during apartheid? What would have happened if people were neutral during slavery? Just be like, well, the slave owners think this and those who are slaves think this. Balance, guys. We've got both perspectives. It's really powerful because it refuses comfort. It presses us to look inward and to ask what it means to speak out, but also just what it means to do our jobs properly as journalists and storytellers. And he just writes so beautifully. There's so much pain and there's so much beauty in his writing. So that is Omar Akkad. One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This, which I just think as a title is incredible.
Very strong, very powerful. Like, great.
Incredible.
But when I hear those statements as well, like I always think of just climate change. Like where the science doesn't lie. Like it's the facts, right?
But for so long, for so long, sections of the media were like, these people say this, and there were obviously powerful gas companies and lobbyists not wanting.
It's just it's wild how these kind of juxtapositions. Hey, how can you be neutral on something that? It's literally just in front of you.
Yeah, but, let the facts tell the story. Let the facts speak for themselves. You don't have to go, you know what, we're going to get a different side to climate change. So we're going to elevate a climate change denier who has no backing and cannot be trusted.
Yeah. God.
Anyway,
well,
you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I will enjoy that. But so I can't really segue. I'm
going to dive straight in.
I'm recommending a beetroot dip. So, yeah.
You could have been like, from Omar Akkad to hummus to another dip.
A beetroot dip. So I saw this on TikTok, of course. Yeah. And I made it and I thought it was amazing. My housemates were grossed out, but it is so good because I'm really getting into, foods that are good for your gut and your skin and all that kind of thing, and just making dips and pastes at home because especially lactose intolerant, it's way cheaper, actually way cheaper. And this is a dip that you can either use as a salad dressing or an actual, dip, or you can put it on toast. You can do anything really with it. And what I've been doing is putting it on toast with kimchi on top or even some eggs or putting it over a salad. And all it is, beetroot just from a can, You put it all in your NutriBullet or blender or something like that. Beetroot, tofu. You can either use hard tofu or soft tofu. That silken one.
Yeah.
Olive oil. And then I'm putting nutritional yeast as well to kind of give it a more creamy texture. Or you can add chickpeas to it if you want, but that kind of makes it more like a hummus kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not adding chickpeas at the moment. But literally I'm just putting beetroot, tofu, olive oil and
a bit of the yeast.
A bit of the nutritional yeast, and you can kind of add
What the hell is nutritional yeast? Like as opposed to the non-nutritional yeast?
Good question.
Okay.
All I know.
That is some homework for you, dear listeners. Yeah.
All I know is it's makes stuff creamy. It's vegan.
Okay.
It's just like yeast. It's some flakes. You can put it on popcorn. You can put it on like a top of things. Like it's really good. Yeah, blend that all up, and then you can obviously make the consistency however you want. Creamier, a bit thicker if you're going to put it on toast, and that's all it is. It looks a bit funky. It looks a bit like a bit brown sometimes, but it's great.
Okay.
Yeah. It's actually really good.
Okay, I'm just thinking you were like, it looks a bit funky. My housemates hated it. Here, guys.
No, but
here's
they
a recommendation.
didn't try it.
Oh, they didn't try it. Okay, so they just judged a book by its ugly cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, come on. We don't do that.
Okay, so my second recommendation, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to try a Turkish hammam, like Turkish baths. I've never been. Have you been to a Turkish baths before?
No.
Oh, okay.
Turkish bath.
Turkish baths.
Like the communal bath?
Yeah, so it's called hammam, which is actually in Arabic means hammam means bath in Arabic as well. So somebody very lovely got me a voucher. I probably would never have gone if I hadn't been given a voucher. And I didn't know what to expect, but it's a 90-minute experience. This is just in Western Sydney. When you first go in there, so it's females only, and you first go in there, you've got to go in the steam room first. So you go in the steam room for a little bit, and then you go into the sauna, and then there's a middle section of all just like marble bench toppy things, and like Turkish aunties, like Turkish women, who are like loofering or exfoliating the bejesus out of your body and then putting olive oil and doing all this. So it's like this ritual. So you steam, you go into the spa, then you get an exfoliation, and they exfoliate so much that it's almost embarrassing how much dead skin you have off your body. And then what I love in particular, the like very authentic experience was the judging. Look, showing you look at your very bad, like telling you.
Okay.
I'm shamed about not exfoliating well enough, but like I feel very comfortable because it reminds me of my mum.
Oh my God.
And then they rinse you with like a like this little, I don't know what you call it, like this wooden enormous spatula, and they just rinse you over the head. And by the time you come out, you feel so crispy clean, and for the days after, your skin on your body and your face just glows. So I highly recommend it.
I've been to the white version of this, the white girl version.
Okay, we'll go to
I've been to like the steam room, sauna, slow. There's one in Bondi Eastern Suburbs, and I also got a voucher because I was like, I'm not going to pay for that.
Well, these are great gifts.
Yeah, great gifts.
Experiences.
But yeah, the same thing, and it was like the sauna, a steam room kind of vibe, and then there's this big pool, a plunge pool that I did cold though. Mine was a cold thing.
Yeah, right.
So it's like the health wellness version of it.
And they're all great. Like
they
the
are
hot
great,
cold therapy is really good.
I want them to scrub me, exfoliate me.
And then they use some sort of type of oil, all the oils that they use on you.
Yeah.
And the decor and the marble and everything is very Ottoman, like Ottoman Empire. It is great. So I can't wait to go back there. So if you want to treat someone to a gift or treat yourself, I do find those things make lovely gifts.
Yeah.
Turkish baths, Turkish hammams. I know there's one in Sydney, there's one in Melbourne, and try and go out to where the ethnics live to get all the ethnic aunties judging you as they exfoliate you.
Yeah,
that is my recommendation.
Go to the Western white version.
Yeah, we covered a lot there. I think we've got some great recommendations, but that is it from us. It is always such a pleasure keeping you company, and you know what? It is also a pleasure reading your reviews. So do tell us what you think about that chat with Jack Toohey. And can you also tell us what on earth nutritional yeast is? That would be helpful if you use it. And any other recommendations, actually, if you have something you're dying to recommend for the weekend list. We are open to learning from you, trying it out ourselves, and then reviewing it for next week. That is it from me. The team will be back in your headphones on Monday with all the headlines and a fascinating deep dive. I will catch you next week.